Hi guys, it's Wendy with Ask the Landlady. I'm here with all the tips and tricks to help you make a profit in real estate rentals. I do have a couple books out there. I hope you're checking them out on Amazon because there it is. Because these are the books I wrote that I wish I had when I first started. I would have been like I'd have 800 units now if I had these books because they outline everything that I'm now telling you to make your life easier. And today's question is, how should I handle phone calls with my tenants? Great question, because we all know that person who gets very long-winded on the phone and you're like and you're like doing something else, checking your email, and you don't even know what they're saying because they're so long-winded. Phone calls can be a huge waste of time, and unless you love to talk on the phone, then great, have at it, let them call you all day long. But for me, I've got other things to do, and I have other ways that I would love for my tenant to communicate with me. So there's a couple things you want to do right from the beginning. First of all, during that lease signing, you want to make sure that tenant knows how and when to get a hold of you, right? Emergencies, absolutely phone call. And you tell them what an emergency is, right? Like for me, I'm in Ohio, so no heat in the winter, that's an emergency, okay? I definitely need to know about that. If your hot water tank goes out over the weekend, you don't have hot water, and it's summer, that's not an emergency. That can wait till Monday morning, and you can call me 8 a.m. Great, and I'll have somebody over there to check that out. But you want to make sure they clearly know what an emergency is based on your guidelines and state, federal, all that type of thing too. There's a lot of municipalities which will tell you what constitutes a rental unit emergency. So go by those, absolutely, and make sure your tenant knows that. My number one advice, besides all that, is to have a dedicated phone line for them that is personally not your personal number. Trust me. I get it. If you only have one unit, you're like, Wendy, this is just so much easier for me. Fine. But if you plan on getting big, start from the beginning by acting big. I did not do that, and I still get phone calls to this day to my personal number, and I'll be somewhere, in the middle of something with the kids or traveling, and it's like, let me give you the office number and get that to you because it's still floating around out there. You don't want that out there. It's so much better if you can separate those. And there's a lot of things you can do with technology that will allow you to keep just one phone number, but to divert it to some other mailbox, right? So you can use Google Voice or Grasshopper, and there's a myriad of things out there that you can try. Shoot me a comment if you're using one of those so that we all know what's a good one. If you don't want to get a second line, like I have a specific office line, if you don't want to do that, there are some ways that you can go about to circumvent that. You want to establish clear hours for phone calls. So you tell people what your office hours are. If they're 9 to 5, they're 9 to 5. If they're 12 to 4, they're 12 to 4, whatever, when you are allowing them to call you with things that are non-emergencies, okay? Emergencies, of course, that's going to be a different situation. But if there's something, they're just going to ask some dumb question, make sure you know. If you're not a morning person, say phone calls out from 10 to 4. You're the landlord. You're the landlady. You get to do what you want. So for us, we've established what our business hours are, right? We say 9 to 4. Yeah, sometimes we were going to call early. If somebody's there to pick up, great. But we tell them what those clear hours are. I do recommend, if you have a dedicated line, even over the weekends and stuff, that you still screen a lot of calls because you don't necessarily need somebody, especially for your units, that's just going to pick up right away every time. Let it go to voicemail. This is going to benefit you in many ways. First of all, you'll get to hear it and say, oh, okay, and formulate your response. They're asking for a pet and I don't allow pets. So you can kind of formulate in your head what you're going to say before you call them back. If a tenant is super mad about something, like somebody parked in their parking spot and something, and they're just foaming at the mouth, if you could let a half hour go by, they're probably going to calm down, simmer down. The problem may even resolve itself. The person moves the car, or the noise has stopped, or whatever. And then you're going to kind of get out of that situation. Maybe they've moved on to something else and they're not going to keep you on the phone for an hour about this small little issue. So I think screening little things like that, letting things go to voicemail, allows you to kind of in your mind know how you're going to react, and also help dissolve or make somebody simmer down. You know what I mean. I also recommend that you document phone calls. So if somebody is calling about an emergency situation, you're going to write down the time they called, just so it's there. There's no situation later where they said, I called on this day thinking it was 3 weeks ago and it was really just 3 days ago, right? You're going to have that documented about when you actually got the call, and just to keep on track legality wise. It's always a good idea. Jot that down. And again, I always be prepared with some responses for common issues, like They are asking if they can get a satellite dish. You don't allow those. Make sure you have those answers kind of already thought about in your head. Maybe even you've done it in your handy dandy lease packet, kind of outline everything that you can think of. It's a good idea. Over the years, I've done that, jotted down what people keep asking for. Then you can address it, the lease thing. Like, we don't allow satellite dishes, or we do allow pets if we meet the pet and you fill out this form and pay a pet fee. Anything that you want to do that's out of the ordinary, try to think of those things, so that's just going to resolve things later on. They won't even ask you for something if they know up front that you're not going to allow that to happen. Or they will, because they know what the procedure is. So last of all, always be kind and always be professional. If somebody's up here, still just take a nice deep breath. Sometimes people just want to be heard, right? They just want you to listen to them. They know you can't do anything about the neighbor that you don't even own that house and they're loud. They know you can't do anything about that. They just want to talk to somebody about it. And you can say, you know what, there's a noise ordinance, call the police, all that. But just be kind and professional. And if somebody's not being kind and professional with you, it's always okay to say, hey, you're really upset right now. Why don't we talk about this later? Click, because you don't deserve to be harassed and abused either. So just try to always take a deep breath and maintain your calm, because that's just going to keep things from escalating further than they need to be. And again, time, I think, always helps things de-escalate, and then maybe you can get back on page with that tenant. So there you have it. Those are my recommendations for how to handle phone calls. So tell me how you do it. I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a comment. And as always, please hit subscribe and like me.